of vibrant talent. The world of work is broken, he says, but it doesn't have to be. So we're going to find out about that and maybe a bit about Mooqi and exactly what or who Mooqi is. Anyway, I'm going to spotlight you now.
Okay, thank you, Turan. I realize that I know quite a few people who are actually on this call this morning. So to those of you who already know me, hi. And to those of you that haven't met before, it's great to meet you and hear a bit more about your businesses and the work that you do. It's my first time attending this network. I do live in Waringstown, so it is my area. I guess, Esther, you would know me the longest, and probably is familiar with my journey and my story. But Esther asked me to come along and share a bit about the work that I do and why I do it. Really, the why of the work that I do is probably the most important part for me, because I'm a big believer in purposeful work and in having a real sense of purpose for the work that you do. I don't know if you've ever came across the expression 40, 40, 40, but it basically says that we go to work 40 plus hours a week. 40 plus hours a week, 40 plus years of our lives to retire on 40% of what we couldn't afford to live on in the first place. Always makes me laugh. It's not a very inspirational story, that, but we will work. I think Johnny would maybe debate this one with me a little bit, but we probably work in terms of conscious things that we do. We probably work more than any other thing that we will do in our lives. I guess if you have a good sleep pattern, maybe you'll sleep more, and Johnny would probably say you should sleep more. But yeah, in terms of conscious things that we choose to do, working is probably up there as number one or number two, the thing we'll spend most of our lives doing. They say that you'll give up between 90 and 100,000 of your hours of your life to your work. What I knew was that I wanted to feel fulfilled with what I would do. I wanted my work to make a positive contribution to my personal life, that it really should make a much more positive impact for all of us, not just for me. An opportunity dropped on my lap completely out of nowhere to take a job in Barcelona as an HR analyst. And actually, at that stage, I was leaning towards going self-employed. But the opportunity to go and live in Spain and experience working abroad proved to be too strong a lure at that point. So I took that job over in Spain. I actually quit that job within 5 weeks. I ended up spending the next 6 months, very fortunately, soul searching on the beach in Barcelona, really thinking about what is it that I want to do, what's going to make me happy, and what my measure of success was going to be. Was I wanted to be content. I wanted to be satisfied. And after a bit of soul searching, I decided that I was going to go out, and what I was going to do was I was going to find organizations who wanted to actually be better workplaces. They wanted to create better career experiences for their people. And they understood that if they did that, that was going to be beneficial to them, first and foremost as employers, and obviously beneficial to their employees, and actually beneficial to their clients and service users as well, because people don't want to be serviced by employees who are absolutely miserable and dragging their heels and not wanting to deliver, for instance, excellent customer service. They want to be serviced by people who are happy and engaged with the work that they do. So I decided that's what I was going to do. That was what I was going to be passionate about. And I set up Vibrant Talent, which is my company, with a vision of a better working world. And that's a better working world for both employers and employees, because we can't have a great working world if it doesn't work for both. And what I've spent the last 5.5 years now doing is finding organizations who want to become what I call a vibrant workplace, which is a workplace where people first and foremost want to take a job because it has a good reputation as an employer, and where they want to come to work and make a positive impact, not just pick up a paycheck and coast through because it's an easy job, but they actually want to challenge themselves and do their best work, make a positive impact for their employer as well. And where they feel after it like it was worthwhile doing it, so they'll say good things about it, and they'll keep choosing to come back and give that discretionary effort. And I have to say, there's not been 1 second of one day, no matter how hard things have got, there's not been one point in the last 5.5 years where I've thought that was a mistake to quit my job. I've had such a brilliant experience. It's been hard. It's been really hard. It took a few years to build a profile and a reputation and a network and get people to see why this matters and take a chance on me. And of course, just when things started to build momentum, along came Brexit and a pandemic, and most of my work is with customers in the EU as well. So it's not been easy, but it's back to purpose. I feel like I make a difference. I feel like through the work that I do, I improve people's experience of work and by extension, quality of life, because you can't have a good quality of life if you spend most of your time in work and you have a terrible experience there. Now, my, I guess, process, how I work has changed over the last few years. And if I refer to we, it's because I work with a network of management consultants and coaches and trainers who I would bring in to work alongside me with our clients, depending on the size of the project and the nature of the project. But we started off through training and coaching programs, really working with managers and organizations to try and transform them from managers into people who can lead from those positions of management. But then we realized that that wasn't enough, because often, and I would say the majority of the time, you can train managers all day long, but if the problems are outside of the manager and they're in the philosophy or the systems or the processes or the structure of the organization, then training those managers isn't going to change anything. You need to look more holistically at the business itself. So we started to take more of a consultative approach where we would partner with organizations. We would go in, we would spend time in their businesses, sitting with their teams and in their different departments, learning what it's like to be an employee there, and then running workshops to work with them to identify the pain points and the opportunities for transformation and to help them transform their companies and become employers of choice. But even that wasn't enough. I felt like there was a voice missing in the conversation, and that was the voice of the employees. With the best will in the world, myself and my associates are just external consultants, and we go into organizations and we make assumptions about what it's like to work there. But at the same time, we felt like management in those organizations are possibly 20 to 25 years removed from being a frontline employee, and they make assumptions too about what it's like to have recently joined the company there. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to give employees a voice in the company, and I'll tell you about why that matters and what the solution ultimately became that we've recently developed. If my screen unfreezes, there we go. So we know from all of the research and all of the studies, I don't need to get into the detail of this because I'm sure anybody who's on LinkedIn sees this stuff cycling around 100 times a day, but we know from all of the reports that organizations with higher levels of employee engagement, better career experiences, and better workplace culture result in better performance for the business itself. But what does that actually mean? How do we develop, this kind of better workplace culture with higher levels of employee engagement in our teams? The British government commissioned a study to try and understand that, to try and understand what is it that enables a workforce to become highly engaged. And they identified four enablers. They identified, first of all, that employees in those businesses, they have a manager who cares about them as an entire human being, not just as a worker. They care about them as a person first and foremost. Now, those managers, they build relationships with their people, but at the same time, they want to see their people be successful and make a positive contribution to the business as well. So those managers set stretching objectives for their people, but they coach them on a weekly basis as well in order to enable them to be successful in their roles. Secondly, they identified that employees in those organizations, they felt really compelled by the purpose of their work. There was a really clear connection between the work that they did as an individual and the objectives of their team or department and the objectives of the overall organization. So they could clearly see how they fit into the bigger picture and why their work mattered. If we jump down to the fourth one, integrity, that basically meant that the organization lived its values. The values weren't just words painted up on an office wall that some marketing company had created for them and that they had never actually understood what they meant or fed into their business practices. Employees could almost understand why a decision is taken at strategic level in those organizations because the organization is living its values. They almost don't even need to explain the choices that they make because employees are on board with them. We've spent the last few years working with organizations to help them transform their managers into people who lead from those positions, to help them clarify and communicate their strategic narrative, to help them define and to live their values. At that point was still missing, and it was a real thorn in my side, and I felt frustrated. We started to offer one-to-one private clinics in our clients' businesses where people could come and speak to us and really get things off their chest and say, this is what life is really like in this company. But we still felt like people didn't trust us because we're still external management consultants. So the fourth enabler was employee voice. We started to think about, how do we give employees a way to truly speak up, share their experience of work, and not fear the repercussions of doing so? And what that led to, after a series of workshops with employees, with line managers, HR directors, company owners, where we tried to understand, is there a real problem here? If there is, what would a solution look like? Was we built a mobile app, and it's called Mooqi, and I'll give you an opportunity to have a guess at what the name means in a moment. But what it does is, sort of about 45 minutes before the end of an employee shift, it sends out a very simple but a very powerful question, and ask your employees how their day was. And that's the kind of question for me which doesn't get asked enough by, for instance, your colleagues or a manager in work. What typically happens is you come home from work and a spouse or a family member or a friend says, how was your day? And then immediately regrets asking the question. So this was about giving employees a therapeutic release where towards the end of their day, they could get things off their chest and say, I had a great or a terrible day, and here's why. And then for companies, it would give them access to charts and reports that would show them across the organization, are people having a good or bad experience at work and why. But at the same time, what often gets forgotten about is that managers themselves are employees. And what we do is we promote people into these positions of management, and we expect them to create a great experience of work for everybody else. But we forget about them. We forget about their experience of work. So what I wanted to do was to build in a bite-sized video learning catalog for managers, so that if they can see problems in their teams, or that if they're experiencing problems, they can access some content within the platform that hopefully points them towards some ideas or suggestions for how they can solve some of the problems that they're experiencing, re-engage the teams, and boost business performance. So it started off as just a mobile app, and then we realized that while a lot of people will prefer a mobile app because it's more confidential, in normal circumstances, you can use this on the bus or the train home from work and nobody can see you doing it. Some people won't want to put it on their phone, so we also built a web platform as well. And this is what it looks like. If you're using the mobile app, there's a notification pops up on your screen towards the end of your shift. You click that, takes you into this log a mood screen. Choose whether you had a great, good, okay, bad, or terrible day. Choose up to 3 of what we call mood factors. And those are things like management or co-workers, meetings, clients, well-being, etc. You choose up to 3 of those to say why your day was good or bad. And then there's a comment box where you can expand on that further, because that's the really important stuff. We want to know if you had a great day because of your manager. What did your manager do? Because we want to encourage more of that. If it was a terrible day because of clients, what happened? And there is obviously the web platform as well. This is the dashboard that appears on the web platform then. And again, what we're looking for is to help our clients get to the point where they've got high levels of green and low levels of red and orange. And that tells us that people are having a positive experience at work. Originally, that was only accessible to managers and admin users. But then we thought, if we're trying to encourage a better way of working, authenticity and transparency has to be at the heart of that. So why would this not be accessible to all employees? So this is now visible to all users. And what we hope is that actually employees who can see other teams and departments aren't having a great time at work when they are, will hopefully try and help those other teams and departments too. You can track each of the individual moods throughout the date range and the team or department that you set as well. So that's not by individual person. It's at that group level of the overall company or teams or departments. And that means if you can see a spike with any particular mood, you know to investigate further and see what's going on then. There's a breakdown across the bottom of that screen, and that shows from great across to terrible, what are the most common mood factors that are being selected when people are choosing those moods. And you can also download the comment spreadsheet. It is anonymous, so it doesn't give the name, but it shows the date, the mood that was chosen, the mood factors that were applied against it, and the comment that was made then. We have that built-in video learning catalog, as I mentioned, and those are videos which are 3, 4, 5 minutes long on things like leadership styles, or how to make your meetings more effective, how to coach members of your team, etc., unconscious bias, lots of things that can hopefully give managers ideas for how they can improve the career experience people are having working in their team. The most common feedback that we get, we've obviously probably run out of time already. I'm trying to cover a lot in short space of time here, but the most common feedback that we get is people saying, what I like about Mooqi is at the end of the day, it gives me an opportunity to reflect on how it's been. And maybe whereas previously I might have thought I had a terrible day, when I reflect on it, I realized that there was one bad thing that happened. So 99% of the day was fine. And I think that's really good because it gives people a bit of perspective. We do this because genuinely our goal is to change the way the world works, and to do so by putting people at the heart of business strategy and improve business performance as we do it. We know they can improve business performance because when people have a better experience of work, it typically leads to lower levels of staff attrition, higher levels of attendance, higher levels of performance, and better customer or client experience of using your services. We know that if we retain employees, our businesses are much more profitable for it as well, because, you know, depending on the level of the employee and the value they bring to the business, it can cost us anything from between 33% of their salary to replace them, up to over 2 times their salary. So it really makes sense to try and build a great experience of work for people and shape a great experience of work for people, rather than just constantly going back through that recruitment and induction training process again and again and again. So that is my business, and that is what I do in a very quick snapshot. Mooqi, I hope that we can use to really help encourage a better way of working. It is a quick and easy tool to use. It takes, I'm sad enough that I've calculated 0.03% of your working day in order to log your experience of work. And what we do is we then encourage our clients to take those insights, sit down with their teams and discuss it and say, here's what's good, here's what's not so good. What can we do about that to actually help each other have a better experience of work? So I'll not ramble on any further, but does anybody any guesses where the name came from?
Mooqi, no idea, unless you do have a favorite cat.
Would be a great name for a cat, actually.
Is it mood questionnaire?
Mood is the first part. Does anybody do anything like Tai Chi?
Did not, no.
Ever heard of Tai Chi?
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, this concept of Chi, in certain martial arts and in Asian cultures, it can be spelled Chi, C-H-I, or Ki, Q-I, or K-I as well. And what it refers to is this invisible life force that influences us. And I started to think about, well, what's the invisible force that influences everything in a business? And it's the mood of the workforce. So I took mood from mood and Ki from that, and Mooqi, that's where the name came from.
Perfect, perfect. I love it. I love the name. I love the name.